Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Super Bowl. It's great to be here. I'm Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. I'm here inside the media workroom, one floor up from Radio Row, which is technically in front of me and down. You can see behind me, and I don't know if you can see it because of the sunlight, but we're literally right down here at the convention center. It is great to be with you guys today. I want you to know I apologize. There's been no podcast the last 2 days, but literally working 21, 22 hours here at the Super Bowl with coverage for the Super Bowl on SI. So I appreciate you all, but have a ton of Raider content for you, all specific with the Raiders. So let's get right into it. We've got the all of the audio and video up so you can go listen to it. But Chip Kelly does his initial media meeting with the press, obviously yesterday, and he said something that I thought was extremely powerful. And it's about time. In my 6 years of covering the Raiders, even when John Gruden was here, I never heard this, and it bothered me immensely. Now, in defense, Scott Turner did it, and I credit him for that, but he's the only one that did it, and nobody talked about it. And that's yesterday, and I'm paraphrasing here, but Chip Kelly talked about good play callers, good offensive coordinators mask their players' weaknesses, meaning you ask players to do what you know they can do, not what they can't do. Some guys get so rigorous for their game plan or for how they want to do things that they're asking guys to do things that they can't. If I asked my son Shane to go take a ruler, measure a 2x4 at 18 inches and cut it, he can do that no problem. I mean, he's very smart. He's in college. He also wants to get into the construction type field. And it's no problem for him. He's 19 years old. But my son Dexter couldn't at 2, and it doesn't make either one of them, doesn't mean Dexter's stupid. He's 2. It's I've seen it so much. It's been incredibly frustrating for me covering the Raiders, not because I'm a fan, but because it's bad football. And I thought that was probably the most powerful thing that Chip Kelly said. Now, I want to talk about another one. Um, Many of you remember I broke the story last year that he was interviewing for the offensive coordinator job. Now, let me go back and put in perspective in case you've forgotten the story, but you can go back and see it and watch the video. It's what I love about the digital age. So Martin Jarman, who is the UCLA athletic director, very dear friend of mine. I love Martin. I find out Chip's interviewing for the job and it's hush hush. So I'm about to report it. So I call Martin and I was shocked. I know that Martin had no plans of firing Chip or getting rid of Chip. And I'm like, wow, I'm surprised Chip's moving on. And when I called him, he had no clue. Chip had never told him he was interviewing. So, oops, I didn't mean to throw a monkey wrench into it. But all I knew at the time from people, and I've said this, is that that there wasn't a mesh between him and AP. I didn't know anything else. Now, I was literally just told a few minutes ago that my buddy Tashawn Reed from The Athletic reported that he wanted to bring key staff with him that AP didn't want. I don't, if Tashawn's reporting it, I'm sure it's accurate. So I don't mean that as questioning Tashawn, but it fits with what I heard that it just wasn't a mesh, but I didn't hear the details Tashawn had. So that's why that didn't work. And that's where it ended up that the Raiders are at a third or fourth choice with Getsy. Cliff Kingsbury was the first choice. I just thought you'd find that interesting. Why would he come back now and why didn't he? I've also had some people email me asking me about, did Chip only come to the Raiders because of the money? I can tell you that many of you know this. I covered the Big Ten for many, many years before. And so I know a lot of people at Ohio State, lots of people, including I have family that are very big donors and all of that. So I know a ton of people there. And I made a phone call and was assured that Chip didn't have to leave Ohio State. They didn't want him to leave Ohio State, and he did not leave Ohio State for the money. Ohio State would have paid him what they needed to pay him, and they're a big enough school that they've got to win at this level. So Chip coming there was not just because the Raiders offered more. They said they felt like Chip felt like his best shot at being a head coach again would have been to stay and be very selective, but he thought the Raiders were a very unique opportunity because of the iconic franchise and just kind of what they represent. So I thought that was interesting perspective from the Ohio State front that I wanted to give you. Now, quarterback. Talked to a ton of people here in New Orleans. Now, not all of them are here, but a lot of them are about the Raider quarterback position, trying to get a feel um, for what people are thinking. I know that it's been reported, and so I'm not pretending to be the first to report, but I can confirm reports that it is highly unlikely, according to a person that would know. I'm going to use those words. Highly unlikely that Russell Wilson would come here to be with Pete Carroll. Now, uh, this person didn't make it sound like it was acrimonious at all. It just was highly unlikely. Now, the reason I say that is I have hence learned, because I didn't report it yesterday when I was told, that somebody else has also reported that. I don't know who, but I want to give whoever was the first to get it out there credit. I'm not trying to reinvent history. I got it yesterday, but I didn't report it, didn't do a podcast. So, but I've been asking a ton of people, including a lot of executives, what do you think the plan is? Because Chip Kelly in his press conference, and he did the right thing. He did exactly what I think most smart people would have done. Oh, gee, I don't know. I haven't even dug into the quarterback position. Okay. Zeke Trezevant told me, he goes, I just laughed when he said it. And because you knew what he was doing. And I credit him for that. But I talked to several people who know Chip, know the Raiders, and especially talked to two people who know Tom Brady very well. No one, and no one used the name, but they all made it clear they fully expect the Raiders to draft someone and to bring in a free agent. Now, I guess I should say, because one of the people mentioned a trade. So either to bring in a free agent or to trade for a veteran. But they think the Raiders, that everyone's like, what are the Raiders going to do? They believe and one of them even said, I don't know. He goes, but I know Tom really well, and he has a plan with everything. Somebody who is very connected to Chip Kelly said to me, there's no way that he made this move without knowing what they were thinking. So there is a plan there. Now it's my job to fetter it out and find out what it is. But I thought you would find that very fascinating, that there is something definitive, and it's just a matter of what. And I think you'll see that, of course, in the free agency or the trade. In the draft, you may not find out. But I know this. There are several guys that are getting a ton of Raider attention now. And so that's going to be very interesting to watch how this flows. I want to talk to you about uh, Ben Johnson. You may remember right after I had people use Josh McDaniels as an example of him. Well, I have not heard nor read it, but I have been told by several people his agent is out there talking, acting as if, the Raiders were never ever in contention. And as one person who does not work for the Raiders told me, but does work for an NFL franchise, his exact words to me were, quote, rewriting history, unquote. Um, Said something I found was very fascinating. And I want to just read this to you because I took the note. This is what he said. Ben better be very careful. I realize it's the agent talking and not him. But if he doesn't do well in Chicago, there's going to be a lot of people not interested in giving a second chance to somebody who went scorched earth the first time. I thought that was very, very fascinating. Very, very fascinating. I can tell you this. I am in no way calling anyone a liar. But if the agent truly feels like the Raiders were never in contention, which I find that very difficult to believe, he needs to just talk to his client and ask his client who he may have talked to. But he's going to hurt his client because chances are he's not going to succeed in Chicago. I hope he does. I don't root against him at all. But I continue to say I believe the Raiders dodged a bullet. And I think Ben could be a great coach. Absolutely great coach. But his agent is making it a very bad look. And it's just like when you're a player and your agent gives it a bad look, or you see parents sometimes when their kids are going into college and they give them a bad look. Why? I'll tell you a great story. So I knew a kid from Florida who was a pretty good wide receiver in high school. And he had had some chances early to commit to some Division I programs, but not like an SEC or a Big Ten school, but some legitimate um, Division I schools. And his dad was horrible to deal with. And so I will never forget this as long as I live. He had all these offers from these smaller Division I schools. No way, my kid's a Division I guy. And he just gone scorched earth doing interviews. So I knew there was some Division I schools that were looking at the kid. And so I interviewed him. And the dad's like, oh yeah, they better offer quick because my kid's not going to be on the market long, all this stuff. Well, as it progresses, it ends up the kid goes to some of these junior camps, and then he was okay, but not great. And some of his senior games, he gets hurt, was okay, not great. So then all of a sudden he's stuck and he's trying to go back to some of these smaller Division I schools, and they'd all moved on. And even those that had space were like, no, we know how you acted when you didn't think you needed us. And so, no, we're not interested. Just people treat people right. And I can tell you, I think that the Raiders are being made to look silly. And that's just, there's a lot of things that you can say about the Raiders. Tom Brady and Mark Davis are not stupid. And inside the NFL, people know the reality. And inside the NFL, people know what Ben may or may not have said to other people. So I thought that was fascinating. I want to talk about the staff. Obviously, big addition to the staff, adding McCullough from Notre Dame. But one of the things that really hit me, so I was talking with an NFL executive yesterday afternoon and about Pete Carroll, and he said one thing that Pete has always done is he gets staff from all over the place because Pete loves thinkers. He loves thinkers and tinkerers. Thinkers and tinkerers. And I thought that was very fascinating to me. And he said, so you're going to see him put together a staff, and there's going to be some people you're like, wow, that's just unique how it is. He's going to go college. He's going to go pro. He's going to go all over the place. And he said, one of the things that Pete always, it's why he has a big coaching tree that Pete has always done, is he looks for people outside the box who think differently, who see the game differently, who teach the game differently. I have a very, very close friend who's part of the University of Notre Dame. And he sent me a text when it came known that he was leaving for the Raiders and just said, this was a brutal loss for us. I got some other friends who are Notre Dame fans that were just telling me how a huge loss for Notre Dame. This was a major pickup. Had one NFL guy tell me here in Radio Row this morning that he thinks he'll end up being an NFL OC for sure. That he thinks outside the box. So I think as you're watching Pete Carroll put together his staff, remember he's looking for thinkers and tinkerers, people that are willing to tinker, not just be happy with the status quo. That people are that are always looking to improve, 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 polish. One guy used the word today, polish, polish, polish. He goes, he's always looking for people that want to polish everything. He said, he's the kind of guy that's up at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning. He goes bouncing back and forth, you know, ready for the game, trying to look at, is there just one more thing I can change on my game plan? So I think it's fascinating the way he's putting the staff together. I want to talk about one other thing. I've had two different people use this term that Tom Brady has said to them. I want to make it clear, I have not heard Tom Brady say this, but two different people have told me that Tom Brady has stressed to them that he and Mark Davis were going to build the Raiders into a first class football operation. And that obviously he believes the Raiders are absolutely first class, but that he feels that as if in an elite organization that maybe hadn't been first class as far as football. Obviously, the wins and losses would tell you that, but I mean, just the operation of football. And they've all told me that he has made that clear to everyone he has spoken to about his desire to turn this into a first class operation, that he's going to, and again, I'm using the first class terms not because Tom told me that, but because that's what two people have told me that Tom has told them is the importance of building first class, and they are going to do it. I have said to you many times, just like I was the first that told you that Pete Carroll, word around the NFL was that Pete Carroll was going to bring his sons, excuse me. The same person that told me that about Pete also told me about Tom using the first class analogy. But he told me something else that I thought was really interesting. Really, really interesting. And I thought you'd get a kick out of it. He said he expects Tom to be as absolutely involved in free agent recruiting as Spytech. He said Tom is going to he goes, I don't know if he'll do it on the phone. I don't know if he'll do it in person. I don't know if he's going to do it on Zoom. He goes, but to these modern players, Tom Brady's everything. And he's going to be recruiting them saying, hey, come here, help me build this first class operation. So I thought you'd want to know that is a key word, two key word first in class, but that Tom is selling everyone, but he's not doing it in a demeaning way of the Raiders. It's just a explanation of where he feels they're going, what he wants to do. Okay, a couple of other quick things I need to mention. Talked to several NFL teams. There is going to be massive interest in Robert Spillane. The Raiders know this. Massive interest, not a little, massive. The Raiders know this, and there are multiple teams that if he gets to free agency, I believe it would be, I'm not saying impossible, but very difficult for the Raiders. And I know that they're going to prioritize keeping him. I've been told that in the organization. They are going to prioritize, they want to keep him. They desire to keep him. And I am going to tell you right now that based upon what I'm hearing from inside the building, as it pertains to Robert Spillane, I will be surprised if the Raiders are fair, and I believe they will be, if Robert Spillane ever gets to free agency. I don't think the Raiders are going to let that happen. I think he's going to get a good deal. I would guess it's going to be a 3 or 4 year deal, probably 3 with an option for a fourth. Is kind of where I'm expecting that to land. I don't think a 2 year deal would keep him away from free agency. A 3 year deal, fully guaranteed. Okay. A 3 with a 4 for a team option, I think for sure. But anyway, so that's where I think that's going to rest, but a huge market for him. And another name is Adam Butler. There's going to be a very big market for Adam Butler. He is extremely well respected, and I know that the Raiders want him back. So, what will the deal look like? Are his demands going to be higher than what the Raiders want? We don't know that. But last year they let him go to free agency, and then they were willing to pay him in the realm of what he would have gotten, so he stayed. I think if he gets to free agency as well, I would be like Robert Spillane. I would be a little surprised if he comes back. But I know that I can tell you internally they would like to keep Adam. But uh and I so because they want to, I think it will get done. But I'm not as sure as I am with Robert. But I know for a fact that is what they are desirous of. Others, I'm still trying to get information, but if you would understand the context of which I was speaking to the people, I really only had a time to get those two. So that's the latest. I thought the Chip Kelly hire was fantastic. McCullough, fantastic. I mean, when you start looking at the staff, and I had somebody say to me, what do you think of him hiring his son and possibly sons? I have zero concern. It's his staff. It's his staff. And we're not dealing with a first time coach here. This is a future Hall of Famer guy. He's the real deal. And when you look at all the staff he's bringing around, okay, you may not know as much about his son. Okay, fine. But Pete Carroll's earned the right to do what Pete Carroll wants. There's some guys that earn that right. Max Crosby's earned the right to have a voice that he has. Robert Spillane has earned that. Jacoby Myers, in my opinion. Brock Bowers now walks into a room, he speaks, he carries a lot more weight than a Michael Mayer. It's just the reality. So that's the latest from your Raiders. I'm going to have a lot more tomorrow for sure. I promise. And I'm working on a couple of things specifically for you. And then two last things, and I'm going to let you go. I got to spend some time today with Will Compton, who many of you know I love Will. I love him and Taylor Lewan, even though Taylor's a Wolverine. I do. Great guys. Their show Bussin' with the Boys is hilarious. If you don't watch that podcast, you should. But I got to spend some time with them today after I visited with Andy Reid and Travis Kelce. I got to spend a little bit of time with them. And so we're going to pop that video and that audio up for you. I know that you'll enjoy talking about Max Crosby, who is a great friend of his. And I know that you'll like that a lot. That'll be good for you. But I want to talk about Antonio Pierce. Um, I have seen a couple of people take some shots at AP. If he's such a great coach, why isn't he coaching anymore? And I want you to know something. I have looked into this, and Antonio Pierce is not coaching this year right now, but it is not because he has not had opportunity. I want to make that very clear. Antonio Pierce had some really unique opportunities afforded him, and he has chosen not to pursue those. So for people taking cheap shots at AP, okay, if you wanted him gone, he's gone. There's no reason to rub his nose in it. And if you're just trying to go after him, quit being a jerk. That's not reality. So he's had opportunities. He's choosing to wait for right now. Now I hope something comes along that he loves because I want him to be happy. But either way, that's the latest on the Raiders. We're going to have plenty more for you. We'll see you tomorrow from here at the Super Bowl in New Orleans. So from all of us here to all of you, I just hope you guys have a great day. God bless you all. We'll see you soon.